I'm excited. We've already realized that we're neighbors in our pre-interview here because clearly we're really good investigative journalists. But I'm super excited for our guest today. You guys have been hearing me rant and rave about life and owning all my mistakes about giving you all bad advice. Yep, listen to it last week's. My guest today is Shannon Malone-deBenedictis. DeBenedictis? Did I
There you
get
go. That's it. The second part is
I
good.
had it so right and then I overthink it. This is what is always going to happen. So basically, it's going to be like, how wrong can Lauren get it? That's going to be my new segment. Um, but Shannon, like you have probably, I'm not gonna lie, you have probably the most impressive bio
Oh, thank
of any guest. So no pressure there. First of all, she has swum with sharks.
you.
She has almost been trampled by water buffaloes.
Yeah, a water buffalo in China. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Dealt with A-list meltdowns.
Yeah, no, I've dealt with that. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's a little bit more difficult than the water buffalo. Yeah.
I would. And then two-time Emmy Award winner here.
Two-time Emmy Award winner, a
No,
primetime Emmy and a
NBD.
daytime Emmy.
NBD.
Yeah.
Uh, and then not wearing black. I didn't realize that black was the staple color for the Emmys.
It's a staple color of the Emmys, and it's what you've been drilled into if you have any weight on you, that you have to wear all black because it's slimming and it
It's
hides how it hides how you might have weight. And I was like, no, I'm not going to wear black to the Emmys. I refuse. Now, I did wear a black dress to the second Emmys, but it had this really kind of mesh top. So it was like there's this great photo of me because it's like my colleagues, like my boss, my boobs, my colleagues. So it was
boobs.
my boobs were on display.
Love it. Shannon actually reached out while we were doing the Q&A and she's like, "So, I just need to know, is this a safe space to curse?" And my response was abso-fucking-lutely. So, if you haven't already been prepared, I'm going to put it in the show description, but this would be earmuff time or a great opportunity to teach your kids about what's acceptable cursing and what's not.
I agree. I just read something that said if you do curse regularly, that it's a sign of higher intelligence. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with it. Yeah. Fuck
I'm here for it. I have
yeah.
a 10-month-old and she hears me curse. She hasn't started talking yet, but I'm pretty sure that we've got some loaded up. So I need to know, this is my first question. What is your go-to curse word for empowerment?
Oh, for empowerment. Oh, that's a good one. It's probably just like, fucking A. I mean, honestly, that's gotta be it. Or just, blatant like fuck yeah. I mean, that is a really kind of encompasses everything that needs to be said in a
Yes.
very close, concise way. Yeah, I would say
Yeah.
that.
I feel like fuck is so poetic
Oh yeah.
and
And then you could say
versatile.
it, and you could say it in so many different ways. It's a little bit like shit. So it's like you can say like fuck, or you can be like fuck. And so it has different meanings in that kind of realm. And then angrily, you can do that too. So it's flexible, and I think it's a word that conveys a lot. And
Yeah.
honestly, for me, I feel like for women, it's very empowering. It's an empowering thing of owning it and saying, no, I don't have any fears or qualms or pearl clutching about expressing how I'm feeling at the time. And nobody would look at, a middle-aged man and say, oh, they shouldn't be talking like that. No. So I find it empowering.
Awesome. Fuck it.
Yeah, exactly.
My favorite phrase, I think I was like in my 20s when I discovered this phrase was go play hide and go fuck yourself.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a
Because
good
it's
one.
like, where are you going with this? And you're like, oh.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
I swear
that's a
this show is not just going to be about cursing, but I find like it's so much fun to just play with language and especially like one word and all the meanings,
yeah.
which absolutely parlays into what a Spitfire is. Because I don't know if you've dug into the definition at all. It is not kind to women.
Oh, I can see that. I can definitely see that. It's always been something like that's the woman in film history, like in the 1920s and 30s, they were the woman who was causing trouble. They
Yes.
weren't married, they didn't have kids, and they were causing trouble, but they just needed the love of a good man to realize their full potential. And it's like, no, no, no. They're doing something, they're making change, they're forces to be reckoned with. Don't like hide them off in some type of like cupboard trapped in like petticoats and all that shit. Absolutely not. No. Yeah.
Don't put baby in a corner.
No, don't put baby in the corner. Don't put baby in the corner. Although in hindsight, again, I was of the age when that movie came out, and then you look back at it and you're like, wait a minute.
Uh,
She was 17 hanging out with
yeah.
yeah. Okay, well, times have changed. Okay, fine. It's times have changed. You know, very
Yeah,
different.
I've been doing a lot of that retrospect of what's okay to show the kids now because my husband has a 15
Yeah.
and a 12-year-old. We're like, does that still like pass or do we need to have a deeper conversation after sharing this with them?
Well, I saw somebody made a comment about 16 candles, and
Yes.
16
Oh, it's
candles
real bad.
is real bad now,
Real
but back
rapey.
then it was huge. It
My
was,
favorite movie growing up.
oh, that's absolutely it. And like, Jack underneath the table and all that stuff. But now you're like, oh, whoa, oh,
Ooh.
that's not great. Okay.
Yeah,
It's a
racism,
different,
misogyny,
it's all
sexual assault, no biggie.
there.
Yeah. But I think it was normalized, but then there was also this awareness of like something doesn't quite match up, but it's also like, but here's the love story. And he was the good guy, even though he was doing some real like not so great stuff.
Yeah, it's also a good movie to watch just to see all the people who then became stars as teenagers and be like, oh, they became famous. Oh, they became famous. Oh, there's John Cusack. Look at that. Okay,
How
yeah. So
cute.
it's
Oh,
all the
that's when he was
people.
like itty bitty, and then his
Oh, it's
sister
how
was
he
there.
was.
Yeah.
His sister was in there too. Yeah, they were all teenagers. I think Jeremy Piven might pop up briefly. It's all
Was
the
he in
Chicago
that?
kids. Yeah, it's all the Chicago kids are in that. It's the same with like
Oh.
Fast Times at Ridgemont High. It's the exact
hmm
same thing.
Yeah, it was the full extension of the Brat Pack. I was watching the SNL, like the 50th
Oh
anniversary
yeah,
stuff,
yeah.
and they talked about this like the worst season ever, where they had Robert Downey Jr.
Oh,
and
that season.
Anthony
Oh
Michael
yeah.
Hall. It's like they weren't funny.
Mm-mm. No, and that's when Robert Downey Jr. was like like a super drug addict. I mean,
Yeah.
talk about a career like rebirth and everybody forgetting about it. People are like, who's had the best kind of comeback story? And I'm like, oh, it's Robert Downey Jr. Nobody remembers the fact that he was so high he crawled into a stranger's house, into a kid's bed. I mean, that's it. It's one thing to break into someone's house, but he crawled into a kid's bed at this person's house, and you're like, and he's now like Iron Man and everybody loves him, and then the other one's Rob Lowe, like what Rob
hmm
Lowe, did, and like, well, everybody's moved on. Okay, that's good, but okay.
So interesting though, because those are both men, and I'm
Yeah,
wondering if the same is true of that kind of redemption story for women.
I think to a point, Drew
Lindsay
Barrymore,
Lohan. I'm gonna give it to
Lindsay
Lindsay Lohan.
Lohan, Lindsay Lohan, and Drew Barrymore.
True.
Because Drew was messed up. I mean, she flashed David Letterman on his show, and she's been able to kind of make a comeback. Um, but yeah, no, it's hard. It's hard. You gotta do the kind of atonement tour. So, and Drew seems genuinely, I don't know, Drew seems genuinely sweet and kind.
My
And
only qualm with her is she doesn't really respect personal space.
well, I do notice that.
It's very touchy. Like she doesn't ask for permission. She's just kind of like, let me make myself okay by touching you.
Yeah, that wouldn't go over well with me because I'd be
No.
like, wait, why are you touching me? I don't know you. You seem friendly, but I don't know you. I mean, I know when people come up to me and they're like, oh, let me give you a hug. And I'm like, I met you 30 minutes ago.
Yeah. So I always
Yeah.
say I start with a handshake, and if we're good, we end with a hug.
Yeah, no, that's a good way. And I used to have to go to conferences all the time in the 90s and early 2000s, and people would be hugging me, like it would all be hugs, but the men would never hug. And I'm like, I don't understand. Why are the women expect to hug and do, kiss, and the men are just doing firm handshakes? I'm like, I want some equality here,
hmm
not because I think that all women should give handshakes. It's because I don't want to hug people I just met. I don't know them. That's it. Yeah. So,
Yeah. In that way, I feel like the pandemic was the best thing that could ever happen
yeah.
because
It
I'm like,
was.
fist bump.
Yeah. How you doing? Good to see you.
I
Finger
don't know
bump.
you, and I don't really like you. Fist bump.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. No, I agree with that. I totally agree with that.
Sorry, I'm a germaphobe. My bad.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not a germaphobe. I'm just more of
No,
hugs.
it's just my weirdo vibes.
Yeah, but yeah, exactly. I'm just more of like hugs are reserved for like family, really close friends, not like a producer I've only met in the past 7 minutes. I'm like, I don't know you, but okay. Yeah.
I will say that, except that's how I got my husband.
Oh, okay. Well,
So I had we were just talking about the Alexandria connection. So I
yeah.
had my first date with him on King Street at King's Ransom, and I
Yeah.
couldn't find the place. I was totally like frazzled because I'm never late for things. Like I'm on time or early, and like I have my control issues. But then I got like harassed on the sidewalk where this guy was like, "I want to paint you," and I was like, "I'm late for a date." And I go in, and my heart rate was so like elevated that I'm like, I need to calm myself down. So I'm like, what do I need to do? So I was like, would you like a hug? So he was my date, but he said,
Yeah.
you came in like and were just so calming because I was nervous too, and the hug like settled us in.
Oh, that's
The
great.
rest
See,
is history.
there
But
you
I
go.
wanted to hug him.
Yeah. See, you made the decision. It wasn't like some forced obligatory like standard that you feel like you have to do, particularly in a professional manner.
Yeah,
No.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So I need to dive into this.
Okay.
No subtext.
Well, I think you've already kind of seen it already. The first
For our
question.
listeners, what does no subtext mean for you?
What it means is that what I find, it took me a really long time to realize this in working with colleagues and managing people is I would say, look, I really need you to work on this project. Could you do A, B, and C? I think this should be done. And then I would get back, they would be like, okay, well, we were wondering what you really meant. And I'm like, I mean that I need you to do project and I need you to do A, B, and C. And they're like, well, what are you trying to tell me? And I'm like, no, I just need you to do this project. And I found so often particularly in professional settings, that people were looking for hidden meanings. They were looking for, if I say, I think you've done this, or, that's a really good job. What was I really meanings that, and
Mm,
people they were used to or expecting passive aggressiveness.
mm,
And that's not me. I'm not passive aggressive. I am, I will be aggressive. I will be, you know, not aggressive. I will be assertive. I will tell you. And I'm like, if you're not doing well, I will tell you. If you're doing great, I will tell you. And so it became really, really like eye-opening of working with people and detailing to people that I had to actually explain what I say is what I mean. I
mm,
don't have subtext. There isn't this thing of like looking for something deeper. It's what it is. And so when I joke like I have no subtext, sometimes I actually have to detail it out to people and say, oh, what did I ask you to do? What did I say? Yeah, that's what I meant. And so now when I work with new people, sometimes I will lead with that and say, if I ask you to do something or I tell you, that's what I mean. I'm not trying to get some hidden message to you. Nor do I recognize subtext when people try to use it with me.
mm.
And that is not the best way to work with me and not the best way to manage me or whatnot. Is that's what I love about my husband. He realizes that. He just tells me what he wants. He tells me what he needs, and we're great. We're very open about it. So that's what I mean by no subtext. It's I think passive aggressiveness and people who kind of do that, it's a disservice to everybody. From a
Mm.
professional standpoint, you're not getting to the point, you're not getting to the root of the problem, you're not working together to solve the problem. You're hoping people can interpret what you're trying to say, get some clear direction when you're kind of like wishy-washy, like, no, I'm going to kind of put it in there. It's like, no, just if you're giving them macaroni and cheese, give them macaroni and cheese. Don't tell them that the treat's somewhere in the middle. Just give them macaroni and cheese.
So where do you think that comes from? Because I've seen it a lot, and the people that I work with, they're always like, "But what do they mean by that? And what's
Mm.
happening?" So where do you think that originates from? This kind of like feeling of there is a hidden meaning, there is this additional subtext, or there's this kind of dance that's going on between people.
Personally, I think that when a lot of people are bumped up into management or leadership positions, they've achieved that goal, that role, because they've excelled at the job they were in. So they were the best, and so they get promoted up to a boss or a leadership role. That doesn't mean they're necessarily the best person to be in that role. They may be really good at what they do, but then to be elevated, they're put in a leadership role. They don't necessarily have the managerial or leadership skills. And frankly, a lot of times they don't want to take training to have the proper management and leadership skills.
Hmm.
At the root of that is you need feedback to grow your employees. You have to give feedback, and they're scared to give feedback. Feedback, positive, constructive, everything. It should cover the whole spectrum. It shouldn't just be, I'm just going to dismiss you or insult you the entire time. And I think they're scared to give feedback that is constructive. And
Mm.
so what they think is, I need to tell this person how to do something, but I don't want to tell them to do this. Maybe if I give them this subtle hint and I bring up this reference from like 1962 Burma, they'll figure out that I'm talking about this type of leadership strategy,
The secret code
The
is.
secret code is exactly. And I think and when you get into those types of environments, I think people come to expect that.
Mm.
And those environments can be super unhealthy, super unproductive, when just training on how to lead people. It's the same thing and I say leadership, it doesn't necessarily mean in just in business, it's in sports too. When you're coaching someone in sports, you don't want to say be passive about it. You don't want to be, passive aggressive or subtle. You need to say, look, I need you to do this. This will make you a better player.
Hmm.
And that's where I think the root of it comes from.
Yeah, so there's a lot of fear avoidance. I think at the core of it, like everything you're mentioning is like this lack of psychological safety, both internally and
Mhm.
environmentally. And so the examples you're giving, I'm like, and in relationships, like how many relationships have we had where it's like, well, I kind of left this on the counter for you, hoping that you would get the hint that you should pick it up and go take it to the recycling. And this whole like inner storyline that we've got going on. When if we just say, hey, could you just do this for me by this point? The clarity, like the amount of confusion that happens in my clients because they don't establish a deadline is mind-boggling.
Oh yeah, that's one great thing about television is producing a TV show. You have very clear deadlines you have to hit.
Hmm.
This is it. You've got to hit here, here, here. And so having that deadline actually helps back time how the process you're going to need to implement in order to achieve the goals, in order to finish the product. And without deadlines, without clear cut parameters, it does leave people in limbo and leaves it that they are not necessarily knowing where to go. And if they're not getting constructive feedback from their boss, from their manager, then if they get lost, then they're also not going to feel comfortable coming to you
Hmm.
for help. And I had an employee who I reconnected with. She reached out to me. She was great. She had been in the industry for quite a while, and then she came and worked in my department. We were doing show development and doing trailers and writing up treatments. And we went on a road trip together. And I started talking about her performance. I started talking about this is like, I think you're really great. I think this, here's some areas you really need to improve on. I think you've got this potential. If you improve in these areas, it's not going to stop you. And she looked at me, she's like, I've been in this business for 8 years, and I think you're the first person who's ever given me constructive feedback.
Hmm.
And I said, well, that's not right. You should have constructive feedback that allows you to grow. And then your boss should also be a mentor to help you get to the next stage of your career.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've seen that last piece about mentorship. It's
Mhm.
just not present anymore.
I don't think so. Now, I call myself a mentor. I don't call myself a
Mhm.
coach. I don't do career coaching. I call myself a mentor and just offer my advice from
Thank you for that, by the way.
yeah. It's I also call myself an emotional support auntie, because it's
Amazing.
like there, we can do emotional support auntie too. But I think that mentorship is a really important thing of helping people along and that kind of satisfaction that comes from letting the next generation learn and become the best they can be.
Hmm.
And I agree. I don't think there's a lot of mentorship. I think that COVID hurt that a lot, being remote. Um, I think that now people go ahead, send me angry letters, send me angry notes. I do think that in a lot of cases, people should go back to the office.
Hmm.
And it's because being back in the office, and I know the financial impact my family's dealing with right now with the federal government being told they have to go back, but that also you learn soft skills from that. You
Hmm.
learn how to interact with people. You learn how to you see how your boss works. You see how things interact. And if we're all just kind of in a silo, sitting behind our computer and our only interaction is DMs or whatnot, you lose those interpersonal skills that help you succeed.
I'm just thinking about the next generation coming in. Like I look at the computer generation for kids, like forget even the phones, like just screen time in general and the lack of like problem solving of okay, you went somewhere you weren't supposed to. How are you going to get home? How are you going to
Yeah.
explain it to your parents? Like we were talking about, the Brat Pack and all that stuff. It's like that's what that whole generation was about of like when things go wrong, what do you do? And now it's like, well, someone else will fix it or I'll just call an Uber or something like that. There's none of that like next level thinking of coming together and trying to like get into hijinks and get out of it.
I agree with you, although I don't want to sound like the old lady just kind of, yelling at the sky
I'm
kind
gonna
of,
do it.
it's like I don't want to but problem solving is in most jobs is like 75% of the work that we do. It's
Yeah.
constantly solving problems. And how you solve the problems is the way you move forward. I used to joke that the way to get ahead in television and many places is it's a lot like golf. And anybody can hit off the tees in golf. That's easy. Driving range, that's super easy. But the professionals, the guys who are really good and the women who are really good are the ones who on every hole they get into the trap and yet they still end up getting a birdie. Why? They know how to problem solve. They know how to figure out each solution every single time. And when you're stuck behind your phone or you just think this is it, oh, I've reached a problem, stop. It doesn't stop. You've got to still solve the problem. I hate to agree with you, but I agree with you. Yeah.
Oh, I know.
Old
It's
lady
such a
yelling
painful
at cloud.
experience.
I'm totally old lady yelling at cloud.
I make fun of my husband because I was like, old man yelling at the clouds on the
Yeah,
lawn again.
exactly.
And
It's
now I've turned
exactly.
into it. Well, you answered my question. So my question was gonna be, and maybe you have a different answer to this.
Yeah,
So what do you think is like the critical characteristic or skill to be successful in television or, in leadership in general?
these tough questions. I even did my homework. Damn it. I think particularly in television, it is you must be agile. You must
Mm,
be able to pivot. I joke that, it's not when the shit hits the fan, it's if the shit hits the fan, it's when the shit will hit the fan. It
mhm,
will hit the fan. And you still have to deliver a project. You still have to deliver what you've promised. So what are the different solutions you're gonna put in place? And particularly in the type of programming I do mostly wildlife filmmaking. You know, animals don't show up when you want them to show up. Don't, it's not, a
such
storm.
divas.
I mean, come on, it's not, it's not predictable. It's not something you can plan 100% ahead of time. You've got storms that roll in. You've got, one key thing, particularly anywhere where there's great whites and orcas coexist. If orcas move into town, basically the great whites scatter, they
Hmm.
leave, which makes orcas the true badasses of the ocean.
And
But
sailboats.
exactly, go team orca. They so having that ability to pivot and make sure you still can get to your goal, that in television, I think is really, really important because as you grow in your role, you become a producer, supervisor producer, executive producer, etc. You're going to have to manage a whole bunch of people who are going to constantly run into problems. And how are you going to help them be their best? Because it's not just you. It's not just, you're not one person producing it. You're not one person doing everything. You have an entire team together that you have to motivate and ensure that they are the best they can be. And a lot of that I feel is handling problems, is making sure of that. And then another thing for television is, and I believe this is the case with most productions, documentary, even fiction programming, is you have to keep your eye on what the North Star is. What is it you're doing? What are you producing? What is the goal of it? So frequently you'll watch a TV show and you've seen it. You watch it and all of a sudden you're like, wait, where is this going? Why did they bring up something? And then you finish it and you're like, well, that was random, that thing they brought us on. It was because a little bit they either needed to fill time or they lost sight of what the North Star was,
Mm.
is really keeping focus on the direction, the journey you're going. Because I've seen a lot of producers as they grow, they lose sight of that and then they panic. And when you panic, you're like, nope, step back. It's okay. It's just TV. You can make this better. There's always a way you can make it better.
So I got to know, what is your guilty pleasure binge-worthy series?
Oh, I am a complete adult cartoon. I'm a diehard Bob's Burgers and The Great North fan. I watch it ad nauseum. I'm the one who's boosting up their numbers on Hulu. Um, I don't, and I don't, this is not a surprise to anybody. I don't watch documentaries in my spare time. I very rarely watch documentaries. And there's some I watch because I want to see how well they're done. I want to see what they're doing, but probably similar to some things you do is it's work.
Hmm.
I can't turn my brain off
Nope.
and be like, oh, this is just enjoyable. It's like, no, why did they put an edit there? Oh, I wouldn't have done this music cue. Oh, God, wow, they have a lot of drone shots in this true crime series. These are the things that go through my head. So my guilty pleasure is I'm a Bob's Burgers and Great North uh diehard fan and watcher. So much so that I think I have at least one sticker of each show on my car.
I got to know your thoughts on reality TV, specifically Real Housewives.
I think I've seen two episodes my entire life.
Okay.
It's not my bag, but let me make this clear. I have no problem with it. I think it's a great genre, and I think it's a genre that took the place of daytime soaps.
Mm.
And as a former daytime soap junkie, One Life to Live Forever, um, I am fine with it. I get it. It's the way that it is. It's a way they filled in this kind of vicarious guilty pleasure of like watching these people fight in this glamour way. You know,
Mhm.
as a television producer, I'm like, it's all fake,
Of
everybody.
course it is.
It's completely fake. It's like daytime soaps. It's Dynasty. It's all, I mean, like we're Dynasty in Dallas in the old days. So I'm more power to them. I'm not, I, again, can't turn the work brain off. So it's not
Yeah.
something that anybody, I watch with anybody because they know they'll see me and my eye will start twitching and they're like, you're seeing something. I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I watch it because I'm like, I'm so glad I don't have to work with those people.
Oh, no, I can see that. But the one show, it's funny, the one show I hugely admire, first off, I love Nailed It on
Yep.
Netflix because the idea of people just being awful at baking, I think is hysterical. I just think that's great. What a great show. But the show, the reason why it wins the Emmy all the time is The Amazing Race. And
My
it's
favorite.
yeah, Amazing Race is great because after 2 or 3 days, there's no way those people are acting anymore
No.
because the fatigue has hit in. And so you're really getting a lot of real behavior. And so I'm all the kudos, all the everything to Amazing Race.
Yeah, I've got a minor obsession with competitive reality TV.
Oh, yeah.
Anything where there's a winner, I'm like, I'm in.
Yeah. Yeah. And I turned away, again, not to age myself, but I turned away on a lot of them. I used to really like America's Next Top Model.
Hmm.
And then they didn't bring the clothes for Takara, the plus size model.
Yeah.
They didn't have the clothes ready for it. And I got really angry and I thought that was really horrible. And I said, I am never watching any of this stuff ever again. And and now I think I watch Great British Bake Off as the only
Yeah.
competition one that I watch. Yeah.
It's just kind for the soul. So I did see that last weekend you spoke at the Fearless
I did.
One Woman.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm curious how it went and your topic. I did see the speaking topic, but maybe you can share that with our listeners.
Oh, sure. So it was a wonderful event over at the Marriott Tysons, and it was called Fully Unapologetic, Being Fat in Media and in Television. And I talked about my life, that throughout my life I have been heavy. There's never been a time where I wasn't heavy. And I brought up about some of the discrimination or just behavior that I experienced during my professional career and the realities of fat bias and weight discrimination in the corporate world, particularly in television, where it's so image conscious, especially in front of the camera, but also somewhat behind the camera in the C-suite. And so I talked about ways to kind of cope with that. And, I think my big takeaway from that is, like I said, I'm a mentor. I'm not a coach. I'm just an emotional support auntie. But I do believe that finding ways to not letting it take up so much energy in yourself and feeling positive about yourself and stop apologizing for who you are. And if you can free that energy up to fight other things, like, fascism and that, um, use that power that way.
Take up
And
the space.
exactly. So if you free the space on feeling like, because you get so exhausted if you're worried all the time about like, what am I going to look like? Is my hair perfect? Should I wear all black or not wear all
Mhm.
black, etc. It just wears you down. And if you take that away and put it towards other things, I think you'll be a lot happier.
Awesome. So I feel like that kind of weaves into this piece on storytelling.
Hmm.
And so I'm curious in the work that you're doing with women in empowerment,
Hmm.
how critical is it for people to tell their story?
Oh, I think it's absolutely vital. I think that for people, as a storyteller, as a professional storyteller, the documentaries I make, for the work that I do, you draw people in with personal connection. You
Mhm.
have to find that element that's going to make everybody care. And if I'm doing a documentary about bears or if I'm doing something on sharks or whatever, why is the audience going to care? It's the same in storytelling and helping people. It's your personal story makes people care. And when you do that, then you can help empower them to recognize, hey, I get that. I'm not alone. This is something other people have gone through. And we can kind of go through it together. We can kind of help and support each other. I remember when not to get too like low, depressed, but when my mother had early onset Alzheimer's and she passed away in 2003. And back then, nobody remember the old joke of like, they had cancer. Like people would not
Mhm.
talk about illness.
Yeah.
And I always thought that was kind of odd. It was like more people who talked about what people were experiencing, then the more support, help, camaraderie you can get for it. And I think that's the same in the things you're wrestling with, whether it's at work or in life, etc. Finding those personal stories and connecting with people through what you've gone through is the best way to get a response, whether it's through an audience or just personally.
If someone wants to look into writing their story, telling their story, where should they start?
I think the first thing is I tell people, why do you care about this story? What is the story there that you feel pops for you? What is it that is, oh, I think this is really interesting. And then identify why other people should care about it. What is the thing that maybe connects people? So let's say you're insecure because you got fired from your first job. Well, I care about that because maybe that firing led to something bigger. It was a great opportunity that came from it. Well, why would other people care? Well, other people have been in the same situation who maybe didn't feel like they could get that break or felt down or despondent. So it gives them hope. It gives them something to look forward to. It gives them a little bit. I'm not saying it's a solution because, again, not a coach, mentor. There's no absolute solutions, right? But
Mm-hmm.
it's good to read things that make you feel better, maybe give you a little bit of hope, a little bit of direction, just a little bit of light to go to. And so once you identify those two elements, then decide how you want to tell that story. What's the best way to do that? And that will inform how you put your story together. If you want to write it, then you structure it out. What's the best way to pull people in? And you think about the stories you've grown up with your entire life. If you want to do a podcast, well, what's the best way to hook people in? What's the best way to get people in from the very beginning? Is it talking about how the word fuck is such a great word that we can kind of, you can blow it away? I know I would tune in and be like, oh my God, what are they going to talk about next? I think it's identifying and seeing those things that have worked and then start shaping your outline around that to build out your story. But those two key questions are, that's what I do in shows I develop. That's what I do in the stories that I write.
That's super helpful. It was just making me think about, I took a public speaking like intensive, and I remember I just threw myself on stage and started telling this like really intense story. And the note that I got was, this matters to you, but people also need to know that you're okay.
Yeah.
Because I think what is happening, what I'm noticing with people is that there's a lot of trauma dumping, but there isn't that full processing of like, where are you now in it? So it's
Mhm.
just like, I'm going to trigger you and I'm going to trigger you. And we're all just like activating, but there's nowhere to put that activation.
Yeah.
So it becomes like this trauma competition.
Yeah. What's the difference? What did I hear? The difference between empathy and sympathy. Yeah.
So sympathy is you feel sorry for someone. So like you're in the emotion with them. With empathy, you are acknowledging they're in that situation, but you're also acknowledging you're not in that space.
That's what you want. And I think that you're right. I think that the tool, the trick is, or the not trick, what you need to do is you need the audience to empathize with you and possibly identify things, but not sympathize with you because you want to have, what's the phrase, a call to action. You want something that
Hmm.
that resolves your story. And like you said, this trauma dumping, do you want to watch a movie, a story, a TV show that is just trauma dumping? No, you want, I'm not literally, but you want the prince to show up. You want them to make the big break on stage. You want them to set up their new life and find new things. You want that kind of
I
ending.
just had a light bulb. That's why I watch true crime, because I'm waiting for them to find the killer.
Yeah, it's a
Holy
resolution.
crap. I got a goosebump moment.
Yeah,
Now I know my addiction. All right,
yeah.
I got
No,
it.
so but that's the whole thing with true crime. True crime has the perfect setup for you,
Hmm.
right? Your perfect setup. And you have this mystery, red herring, red herring. Oh, this might be the right path. You go down the right path, conclusion. Your reality shows, Real Housewives, they have the same thing.
Hmm.
You start with introduction, you have a possible conflict, you set up, you resolve that little conflict, and then you build up to the next conflict, and you're like, oh dear God, what is going to happen? Boom, there's some explosion, the table gets flipped or whatever. Again, I've only seen one or two episodes.
That's
And
all
then
you need.
and then they prep for the next time they're all going to get together. It's the same thing. So when you just do trauma dumping and you don't have a resolution, you don't have a and this is what, and they lived happily ever after, or
Hmm.
something like that, then it does feel incomplete. It feels that you're just kind of saying like, oh God, this happened to me. And it's like, okay, but what can we take from it? What
Mm.
can we,
So I'm really hearing the need for vulnerability and sharing, also with this critical thinking curiosity of how does this all fit together, work together, and get delivered out.
and that is what I'm more worried about in next generations is critical.
Amen.
It's critical.
I
Yeah.
just did a whole workshop with a bunch of government contractors on critical thinking and strategic thinking
Hmm.
about how to shape this like immediate change into future forecasting. That's what's missing
Yeah.
because people are not picking up on signals. They are not like seeing the wiggle and like where can we flip things? Like they are stuck and they are getting taken under.
Yeah. Yeah. I think someone just told me, I didn't say this, someone else said it. It's like, get out of your own business vault, out of your
Yes,
industry vault. Get out of it. And part of that is that if you stay there, then you're only kind of seeing not, you're not, like you said, you're only seeing the beginning and the middle. You're not seeing what the potential end could be. And you've got to have that potential end.
absolutely. Well, I have absolutely enjoyed our conversation.
Great.
And I hope to see you at the local pharmacy.
Oh,
Uh,
totally.
and I hope you'll come
I'm gonna
back.
be walking down Mount Vernon and you're gonna be like, hey, and I'm gonna be like, who is that woman? Wait, hold on a second. No, I won't.
Just look for
I won't be
leggings and a hat that says they Spitfire and a crazy dog and a baby. That's me.
perfect.
That's like
Perfect.
every person where I live. Not the hat though. So if people want to reach out to you, work with you, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Sure. My website is Padlin, Padlin, creative.com. And you can book a consultation. I consult on creative projects. I also consult on ways to improve your career, any type of roadblocks you have, and again, emotional support auntie. Yeah.
Love it. And if you want to spread a nugget of wisdom, this is like the last piece. What do you want people to walk away knowing, doing, or being different?
Okay, there's two movie quotes that I live by. One is from the movie Silverado, like I think that's 1983 or 84. It's life is what you make of it. If it doesn't fit, make alterations.
Mhm.
And then the other one is from the incredible Tracy Jordan on Tracy Morgan playing Tracy Jordan on 30 Rock. Is he says, you have to be cool to everybody because life is like a Japanese game show. You have no idea what's going on.
Just be cool.
Just be cool.
Just be cool.
Just
Well,
be
you are super cool. Thank you so much for agreeing to come on and to, drop some F-bombs and some wisdom.
happy to do it. I'll do it anytime you need it. Need someone to come on. Yep.
Amazing. Well, to all the Spitfires out there, you keep being awesome and check out Shannon. See you later.